Hey, what's up guys? I'm going to show you how to track commissions for your employees. So I have a client who he wants me to track how much his carrier owes him, and he wants to track how much he owes his employees. So the first thing you need to do is make sure you have your classes turned on. If you go into your settings, and you need QuickBooks Online Plus to have this. Go into your advanced, and in your categories, just make sure your classes are turned on. The second thing you want to do is go into your chart of accounts. So you're going to need 3 different accounts for this. You want your sales income, you want a payroll liability. So what I did was made a parent account for payroll liabilities, and then we want agents wages payable. That's how much that's how we're gonna track how much we owe our employees. And if they are W-2, then you actually have to track the taxes withheld. So I'll kind of show you both ways, if they're 1099 or a W-2. And then the last thing you want to add is a commission expense. And we're going to put this in cost of goods sold. And I'll show you what that looks like in the reports. So when you set that up, you want to come up to this gear icon and go to products and services. And we want to do the same exact thing here. We want to map the product and service to that category that was in the chart of accounts. So we have our sales income, our agent wages payable, and the commissions expense. And when you create these, you'll put the same name. You don't need a category, that doesn't really matter. But right here, the income account, this is where you want to map it to your chart of accounts. So this one, it is an income account, so that's sales income. The wages payable is a liability, but it's going to be mapped the same way. So you'll just create it, put the name in here, and then you want in the income account the same liability that you have in your chart of accounts. Same thing for the commission expense. So what we're going to do is now we're going to say that we got the commission report from the carrier, and it's going to show how much the agent is owed on there and how much that carrier owes to your client or yourself if you're the broker. So we're going to start, we'll say they haven't paid it yet, so we just have the commission report. So we're going to create an invoice. So now we'll add our customer. So Cigna is our customer, and we'll just say it's a net 30. So we're gonna do, since this is in 2018 is what I used it for, we'll see if this matches. But the important part here is now you're at the product and service. So we're going to start with the sales income, because we know this is the gross amount that we are owed from Cigna, and this is $5,000 that they owe us. And the classes now, when you set up your classes, these are going to be your agents. So we're going to say that Mary was the agent that sold this. We're going to go into the second line and we're going to use the wages payable that's on the liability. And we'll say the agents are paid 25% of the gross. So Mary is owed $12.50. And the last line is our commission expense, which is going to go in the P&L. And since this is an expense, we're going to do a negative number, and that's going to be the same amount as the wages payable. And Mary's going to be tied to all three. So once we do that, we'll save and close. We don't need to send it to anybody, we're just using this for our own benefit. So once we get our invoice in here, we're going to fast forward to when Cigna pays us. So that was in 5/20. So let me just go back in here and change this real quick so that it'll match properly. Back into our invoice, change the date. So we'll just say this was 4/20 to 5/20. So now once you get into the bank feed, we're just going to match it to this invoice. But before we do that, let's go into the custom reports and I'll show you what it looks like when you add that invoice. So we'll go into the balance sheet here. So now you can see that we have the accounts receivable because that's what we're owed from the carrier. The agent wages payable comes in at $12.50. And if we go into the net income, we also get the commission expense. So this is the reason why I made it a cost of goods sold, because this would be a number that we would want to see. We knew that we sold or were owed the $5,000, but we also know we got to pay our employees. So this is really the number that we're looking for before we have our general expenses down here. So let's go back into the bank here. And let's actually do one more. So Mary sold one, we're gonna say Humana. So before they pay us, we have the sales commission, the sales commission report. And this is how my clients have it set up. So they send me that report, say, okay, Humana is the customer. That's probably about right. We have the sales income, so this will be exactly the same as we did before. They owe us $500, and we'll say John is our other agent. We have the wages payable. John's owed 25% of that. And we want our commission expense. That's a negative number. And let's go ahead and look at the report again, see what this looks like. So once we are able to see both of these in the report, we can split it up by class and we can actually look at what the sales is for each agent. So now you'll see the wages payable went up, our receivables have went up, and now we see the agent commission expense is also up. So let's come in here and split it into classes. Now we see the full breakdown. John sold this much and he's owed, or will be paid this amount. So we have the full report before we even got paid, which is still great. So now let's go into the bank here. And our carriers finally paid it. So we're going to click into match. And now we see our invoice here. So all we do is click on the invoice. We're going to match this one. And let's go back into our reports. We'll start in the balance sheet here. So now the accounts receivable has gone down. Our bank account has gone up. And when we drill down into the profit and loss, split this into the classes again, you can see that the commission expense has not changed. All we did was get rid of that liability on the balance sheet. So this is going to stay the same. What happens is when we get into the wages payable here, let's go ahead and group this by class. So we know that the carrier has paid us, but we haven't paid our employee yet. So this is really the important part. So we know that Humana has paid the correct amount. We tied it to that invoice, but now we still owe Mary that $12.50. And you can see that John's is still outstanding at $125. So let's say we paid Mary now, and it comes out of our bank, and we're just going to assume that these are 1099, so we're not taking any kind of payroll tax. This will be the same exact thing, we're just going to take it out of the payroll liability. So in the account, it'll be the agent wages payable. Make sure you put in your class for the right agent, and we're gonna, I guess you can put a vendor in there, say Mary Smith, and we'll post that. Look at our balance sheet here, and now the wages payable has gone down. We'll go ahead and group this again by class. And now we see that Mary has been paid and she has a zero balance. John still owed $125. So if it's the end of the month, you can just save this report. You can just say agent wages payable. So now it'll save. So anytime that you need to pull this report, you can send it to your client. So let's go ahead and go back to our bank. And maybe let's say, well, we know that Humana paid the $500 now, right? You can come in here to match. And now we can match that invoice, just like we did before. So that's going to take out the accounts receivable. Now we know that our carriers have been paid all in full. And we're just going to fast forward to paying our agent. Because we owe them $125, we're going to assume that they are a W-2 employee. So this is about one extra step here that you can take. And we could say that John was paid. And we need to get rid of the liability. So this will be the same exact process as if they're a 1099. We know that we owe them $125. And this is for John. But now we have to add in the payroll tax that is withheld. So this will be our other liability account. And we'll just say that the payroll report just shows that it was 50. This is for John. So now we owed them $125. We're clearing this out of the liability account on the balance sheet. We're adding another liability that is owed by my client, who's going to have to pay this eventually by the end of the month or however long it takes to have to pay that. And we're assuming that the payroll report showed that after taking out the taxes, the agent was then paid $75. So we want this to match. Whatever's on the payroll report, we're matching it right here. So now we got everything cleared. We're adding this. And this needs to be a negative number. So now they match. Let's go back into our reports here. And you'll see this report is saved in here, so whenever you would need it for your client, you can just pull up that report. So now our accounts receivable is at 0, everyone's paid. All of our agents are paid. We do have this liability now that we're going to have to pay by the end of the month probably. And when we come into the net income, and we go by class, now we see the full picture of what they brought in for the company, what's been paid out to them, which this number never changes. It just stays the same when we make the invoice. And we have our gross profit. So that's the full circle of how we want to set this up when we're dealing with commissions. That's the best way that I found how to do it. Use classes, make it simple, and when they come through, that would be your standard way of doing all of that. So I hope that helps. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.